Who's ready for some football? It's the most wonderful time of the year. The NFL is back, baby. A plethora of journeys, storylines, and big-time games are ahead of us in the 2023-2024 regular season, and we can only hope that this year is more entertaining than the last one. Will things be more predictable than ever, or are we in for a big-time treat? Let's take a gander at the schedule to get an idea with some Week 1 predictions. Let's test the waters. Starting off on Thursday Night Football, we have the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs taking on the up-and-coming Detroit Lions. The Chiefs, of course, come in as big-time favorites in this one, as they are very strong in their home building. And also that Detroit Lions defense, while it did improve a little bit during the offseason, is still suspect at best. You'd have to assume Mahomes is going to hang up a lot of points and he's going to move the ball with relative ease, even with a receiving core that has questions, and the fact that Travis Kelce, even if he does play, will not be at 100%. There's definitely some upset potential in the air just because Detroit are a pretty interesting team, and the Chiefs won't be at their best defensively with Chris Jones sitting out while he demands a new contract. So the Lions are probably going to hang in there and keep this as a shootout. But when it comes to who you'd trust in a shootout, it's going to be Pat Mahomes 9 times out of 10. No matter what he has, he always finds a way to win, and I'm expecting that to continue. Now for the plethora of 1 p.m. slot games on Sunday, starting off with the Houston Texans versus the Baltimore Ravens. The Texans are an interesting looking squad as they begin their rebuild with hopefully their new future franchise quarterback, while the Baltimore Ravens are unveiling a new offense with some new weapons for Lamar Jackson, and Lamar himself just got the contract extension he was looking for, and because they're playing the Texans, the Ravens are probably going to show us a lot of their capabilities in this one. The Texans have so much to prove. The Ravens have title aspirations, so it's probably going to be a blowout. These are just two different levels of opponents, so I'd say Baltimore win this in a pretty easy blowout. Next is the Bengals versus the Browns, and while the Bengals certainly have less questions that need to be answered, Joe Burrow's health could be a question mark for one, and even if it isn't, because apparently he is going to be suiting up and playing, he tends to get off to slow starts during week 1, and they are playing against that ferocious Browns defense with Myles Garrett. He's given them a lot of problems in the past, so don't be surprised if this ends up being a close, gut-wrenching game. All the pressure in the world is on the Bengals to continue their greatness and this year get back to the Super Bowl. They want to get off to a strong start. The Browns don't really have the same types of expectations, so you could definitely see the Browns going in there and pulling off a big win and shocking Bengals fans worldwide, just like how the Steelers did 1 year prior. But I'm going to be going with the Bengals, even with Joe Burrow's health being a question mark. I just have too many questions about how the Browns offense is going to perform. Deshaun Watson is probably going to look at least a little bit better than he did at the end of last year, but that's not saying much. I still don't fully trust him to perform, and I kind of want him to suck because that guy's a jerk, so I have the Bengals taking this one. Next is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Minnesota Vikings, and just to get straight to the point here, the Buccaneers are a team full of mystery. They seem like they're on the downward trend. Defensively, they could actually keep the Vikings in check, but it's going to be completely up to Baker Mayfield to actually put some points up on the board, and just knowing what he's been the last year or two, I don't really know if you can trust him to do that. He has the weapons to pull it off, but I don't know how much confidence you can have in this guy. He's just been full of injuries over the years. He hasn't exactly looked great in camp either. I just wouldn't expect him to have a great game against a Vikings team that's probably going to put up a lot of points. Justin Jefferson's going to start another campaign where he absolutely dominates, and I don't think anybody on that Tampa Bay side of the defense can stop him, so catch me with a Vikings W. Next up is the Saints taking on the Tennessee Titans. Both teams could be around the same level skill/roster-wise this season. It feels like it's kind of even on paper, but the Titans feel like they may be going in the wrong direction. Their QB situation isn't getting any better. They added DeAndre Hopkins to hopefully alleviate that a little bit, but they do have some questions about that defense, even though they are well coached, and the Saints feel like the more well-balanced team. They got Derek Carr to solve a lot of those QB issues. He's probably going to put up some good numbers in this one. And on top of it, their defense is probably a bit more reliable to get the big stops when this game comes down to the wire. And on top of that, the Saints are generally pretty good at home. So I'll take the Saints. Next, you've got an NFC South rivalry matchup between the Panthers and the Falcons. Neither team really has high expectations this year, and roster-wise, you're not exactly impressed by either of them. They're probably not going to do any damage, but this matchup could go either way. Those NFC South matchups are always a toss-up. They're usually pretty close, and I'm expecting this to be no exception. The Panthers have a new offense, a new quarterback. It could give them some new life that we haven't seen, honestly, in quite a few years. I think they're actually going to keep this a lot closer than people might think. But in the end, I do believe the Falcons will win this game. Kind of like with the Saints, they're relatively strong in their own building. And on top of that, I think I have a bit more confidence in their offense to put up points. Not that I have a lot of trust in Desmond Ridder right now, but offensively, I'd say they're a bit stronger, with a few less holes and question marks compared to the Panthers. So in the end, I think they'll probably drive down the field in a late game situation and get that game-winning field goal to get the W. Jaguars versus Colts. I mean, do I really have to say much here? Two teams on completely opposite trajectories. The Jaguars are about to take over the AFC South, and the Colts, well, they have so many issues to work out. We don't even know if that offense is going to be any good with their lack of receivers and the question marks with Anthony Richardson and how raw he is. The Jaguars are just a far superior team. They're way further along in their rebuild. They're going to be a playoff contender this year, so Jags all the way. Next, the Steelers are taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This one's got some pretty legit upset potential to it. The Niners maybe have a couple of uncertainties, and the Steelers are sneakily on the rise. I feel like people are sleeping on them because of that defense. In year 2 with Kenny Pickett and George Pickens, I'm expecting big things from this group, and I believe they will be extremely competitive. But I don't know if they can handle the Niners. That's a pretty strong test for them to face with that offense against that kind of defense. And I guess vice versa applies for Niners versus Steelers. Brock Purdy hasn't played a lot of defenses at that level. TJ Watt could be a nightmare. But when I think about it, you'd have to imagine that the Niners are likely to have more time of possession in this game, just because they have a few more proven playmakers. They're more of a veteran core. They're further along with their progression. They're probably going to grind out more yards and keep that Steelers defense out for longer to tire them out. I'd expect this to be a somewhat low-scoring game where they're both making stops and their defenses are carrying, but with that Steelers defense being on the field for longer, most likely, eventually they'll tire out and they'll give in, and the Niners end up winning a low-scoring close game. And wrapping up the 1 p.m. slot matches is the Arizona Cardinals versus the Washington Commanders. This could be an early tank bowl, although if we're being honest, the Commanders are way further along when it comes to their talent and what they're trying to do. The Cardinals are clearly trying to tank, especially with Kyler Murray nowhere to be seen. Their hero's going to have to be Josh Dobbs, and that doesn't exactly give you a lot of confidence against a hardened Commanders defense. Now for the 4 p.m. territory. First, you got the Raiders taking on the Denver Broncos in an AFC West showdown. Both teams are looking to start anew while having some weird questions about them. The Raiders have a new QB in place in Jimmy G. They're hoping that he can lead them to the promised land. And on the other side of it, the Broncos have a new coaching situation. They're hoping for a bounce back year from Russell Wilson. Both teams have a lot of hopes and dreams on the line, and they're not necessarily going to be anything special. So it's important to get a dub like this early on to help you at least have a chance to make the playoffs. And clearly, the Broncos are the better overall team. The Raiders are very capable of making an upset happen as their offense is relatively strong because they have Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams, but they're so lackluster defensively. Even with an injured Broncos receiving core, I don't think the Raiders are going to do much stopping at all, and the Broncos defense is at least competent enough to get a couple of stops and keep them in this game, so the Broncos should be the favorites to win. Next is going to be the Dolphins versus the Chargers, two potential AFC playoff opponents going up against each other in what could be a wild card round later down the road. Each of these teams is very capable, super strong, amazing offensively. This could end up being a shootout. Tua versus Justin Herbert could be extremely entertaining to watch with the weapons they have in their arms, so long as they're healthy and on the field. It could really go either way. But in the end, I am actually going with the road team. A bit of an upset with the Miami Dolphins coming out on top, and I'm going with them for two reasons. One, I just get this feeling Tua's gonna outduel Justin Herbert. I don't know what it is, but I have a good feeling he's going to bounce back after being away for a while. He wants to bounce back from the injuries last year and give Dolphins fans something to be excited for. But 2, the Dolphins defense collectively is maybe a bit stronger, maybe a bit more trustworthy in the clutch, albeit not by that much because they're up against Justin Herbert, but just slowing him down a little bit may be just enough to get this win and edge out like a close 1-score victory. It's not going to be easy, and the Chargers very well might just take it instead, but I'm taking a risk and going with the Dolphins. Next, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles, the NFC champions, mind you, taking on the New England Patriots. The Patriots, coming into the 2023 season, have a bunch of questions about their offense that need to be answered, specifically if Mac Jones can be their franchise quarterback, and if they have enough weapons to actually hold on and put up a decent number of points if their defense cannot keep them in the game. And this might be one of the scenarios where their defense really can't help, because that Philadelphia Eagles offense is mean, hungry, and super dangerous with how versatile they are. This chess match of Jalen Hurts and the run/pass option versus Bill Belichick's defensive mind could get super interesting and really fun. I think that aspect of the game will be very entertaining, but over time he's going to wear that defense down, especially because the Eagles defensively are in a really good spot as well. They're probably going to get to Mac Jones a couple of times in this one. The Eagles are probably going to dominate with time of possession and win this game somewhat convincingly, I feel like. You can never count out the Patriots, but the Eagles are just in a way better place right now, so you have to go with Philly. Next, you've got the Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers. Always a fun rivalry to watch, and this one in particular is going to be extremely interesting. Aaron Rodgers is no longer there to own Chicago. It's 2 new, young quarterbacks with the franchises backing them up going head-to-head. Justin Fields just got a bunch of new weapons. The Bears are fully investing in him and hoping he can take the next step. Meanwhile, Jordan Love is taking over for Aaron Rodgers' legacy and hoping that he, with a new young offense, can get the job done. Both teams are looking to be somewhat competitive this season, and I'd expect this to actually be a pretty back and forth matchup, as Justin Fields and DJ Moore might be able to score a bunch, and the run game could be really good against even that Packers defense, but at the same time, Jordan Love actually has seemed somewhat confident in all of the film so far, so he actually might be able to put up some good points as well against a Bears defense that does leave a bit to be desired. I'm expecting confidence for both sides to be at an all-time high, so I really don't know what to expect. It's one of those 50-50 matchups, but I personally am going with the road team, the Green Bay Packers here. They always seem to own Chicago no matter what the scenario is. It's been that way for years, and because defensively they've just got a bit more going on, and Jair Alexander might be able to shut down DJ Moore a bit and take him out of the game, and then they might be able to get to Justin Fields a couple of times. I think the Bears are going to fall short. Their offense might get frustrated towards the end of the game as it goes on, and the Packers will squeak out a dub. Ending the 4 p.m. slot matches on Sunday is the Seattle Seahawks versus the LA Rams. Not gonna lie, expectations are rather low at this one. The Rams feel like a dying team, like they're meant to be bad, and also offensively, I don't know if they keep up with the Seahawks in this one. It helps that Matt Stafford is the healthiest he's been in a long time. That alone should help you stay in the game because he's used to carrying sorry teams, but weapons-wise, he is lacking big time. With Cooper Kupp being on IR and his future being uncertain, he doesn't have a lot of weapons to pass the ball to. Cam Akers isn't the best running back either. It's hard to imagine them moving the ball down the field a lot throughout this game. They might score in bunches here and there, but compared to the Seahawks, who are so much more loaded, they're just going to have a hard time keeping pace. Defensively, the Rams aren't as good as they used to be either, so I feel like the Seahawks are going to walk all over them and win by multiple scores. And now for primetime Sunday Night Football, the return of the Giants-Cowboys Sunday Night Classic, where the Giants usually get their butts handed to them. Coming into the season, the Giants have a lot to prove. Daniel Jones just got a massive paycheck, and the offense has been upgraded to try and get him to throw the ball downfield more, so we're looking to see him progress alongside guys like Darren Waller and a bunch of more receivers to throw to, and having Saquon Barkley be back and everything. But they're playing a Cowboys team that they have not beaten with Dak Prescott in for the entire game since 2016. This guy literally owns the Giants. He never loses to them. Danny Dimes is also not that great on primetime so far, but if there was ever a time to break the narrative, I think it would be right now. The G-Men's confidence is growing steadily. It seems like that Waller to Jones connection is legit, and that he's a more confident player than he used to be. The Giants, I think, are going to go in there at MetLife and stun the Cowboys. It seems unrealistic, it probably won't happen, maybe I'm just fanboying out, but the Giants are so overdue to beat the Cowboys with Dak Prescott in there. It's been way too long, and the Giants are a different team than they used to be. The Cowboys also just aren't getting any better or worse at this point. They're stagnating. There's only room for the Giants to catch up to them at this point. This is me probably coping, but I think the Giants are going to pull it off. The Cowboys defense is no joke, and their offense is still strong, but Dak has a lot to prove, and if the Giants can force a turnover or two, I think they can get this win. Anyway, to end NFL Week 1 action on Monday night, Aaron Rodgers, with his new look green jersey on the Jets, is taking on the Buffalo Bills. This is a showdown. The Jets and the Bills are two of the stronger teams in the AFC, both extremely well-rounded. The Jets are very young, but super strong defensively. They also upgraded the one problem they had at quarterback, but they're playing a Bills team that is hungry to finally get to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to be able to take them down. The Jets still are young and inexperienced, and they do have some weaknesses that they've shown throughout parts of last season, so they're not perfect, even though they did get a lot better. There is a world where the Bills could still beat them somewhat convincingly, but I think this is going to be a good back and forth affair. I genuinely do. I don't know if it's going to be super high scoring, because both defenses are rather solid, but I could see it going super back and forth throughout the entire game, where they trade a touchdown or two every single quarter. And then by the end, I think it's going to come down to Josh Allen versus Aaron Rodgers on like a game-winning drive attempt. And this is where I think the Bills are going to end up taking this one. It's not that I think the Jets don't have it in them. It's more so that I'm a Bills believer this year. I feel like this has to be the year where they finally make it. They've been facing so much adversity. They've been cursed for way too long. This is where Josh Allen gets angry and plays some of the best football we've ever seen out of him. Him and Stephon Diggs get like a game-winning touchdown, and they just barely beat a Jets team that you've got to be on the lookout for this year. And that pretty much concludes my predictions for Week 1. Let's see how terrible I really am at predicting games. I'm assuming it's going to be super ugly because my predictions are always bad with this kind of stuff, but you never know. Let me know what you think about the games this weekend and who you think is going to win down in the comments below. And of course, if you want more weekly NFL content, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Peace.